Good morning and welcome to the Austin Sister Cities Protocol Training Module 3. Today's training is focused on India and Thailand, and our training is facilitated by Dr. Kevin Clark from Austin Community College. Dr. Clark, I hand over to you now.
Thank you very much, Aditi. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. It's a beautiful sunny day, so it's nice we get to spend a little time here on our Friday lunchtime talking about faraway places. So just a little bit about me. I've been in two doctoral programs, the first in linguistics and the second in critical and cultural studies, which is part of communication studies. So that brings in language and culture, but I should say from my own background, in junior high and high school, I spent 6 years in cotillion, which meant on a monthly basis, smoothing down the rough edges of young men and women to try to make them get along better in society and with each other. And at the time, it was something fun to do with my friends, but now I see the real purpose of it. Besides the fact it gave my parents a nice quiet Saturday night. So we're going to talk here a little bit today about, of course, business protocol in India and Thailand. This continues our series. Our first, Asia 1, was on Japan and South Korea. Asia 2 was on China and Taiwan. And next week, we'll have Asia 4 in India. We're going to have Turkey and Lesotho. Now, part of this I'd like to talk about is what are the basics of a reason to learn protocol. So let's just look into this a little bit. First, I'd like to just show you, and if you may have seen, if you've been to one of these, I may have shown you this, but just bear with me here. How do we engage another culture? We go somewhere. If we live somewhere, we're going to pick up the language and some of the nonverbals and the ways of doing things. But what if you're somewhere very briefly, say a week? Let's say you're visiting a partner in one of our sister cities. Well, let's just take a look that some things don't really change that much. So let's take a look at an 18th century version here. This is John Adams and Ben Franklin meeting in the late 1700s with King Louis XVI. Ben Franklin's the unofficial U.S. ambassador to the newly formed United States, ambassador to France. He's in with the king there. He's in with the royalty. He's in with the mines in Paris and Versailles. And John Adams comes along and does things very differently. And they're not very happy with each other's style. So let's just take a look here.
Is it your purpose to destroy everything we've accomplished? To engineer the recall of the fleet under Admiral d'Estaing? Or is this...
Oops, sorry.
Some new kind of diplomatic initiative, the direct insult followed by the petulant whine. What are you thinking of? A good diplomat, Mr. Adams, observes much, acts little, and speaks softly.
The Comte de Vergennes means to keep his hand beneath our chin, to prevent us from drowning, but not to keep our heads above the water.
You learn nothing, Mr. Adams, if you continue to exasperate and antagonize these people.
As I did in Philadelphia, and we declared independence, you'll recall.
In Philadelphia, we negotiated independence.
Well, you may be as patient and accommodating as you like, Doctor. But for myself, I will not voluntarily put on the chains of France while I am struggling to throw off those of Great Britain.
There's already a lack of decorum. Much before, much after. Okay, so let's take a look at, let's do a little breakdown on what happened here with Adams and Franklin talking. And of course, we're not privy to exactly what was said, but each wrote about their experiences, especially Franklin. So we know a lot. We're newly freed, but Adams is afraid that we're now under the, under the rule in some form of France. And he didn't really learn very much. Here we see him dressed kind of similarly. But, and, there's expression, guests like fish begin to smell after 3 days. But let's take a look at what Franklin aimed for. Here was his traditional, now he was in a more formal setting here. So he did dress in the style of the French, of the nobility. But he usually dressed like he did here. He wore a rough fur coat. This is not like a modern fur coat, made of various hunted animals, including the hat. He even had some extra sent over from the US, which is not exactly Amazon, had them shipped over. So as he says, the good diplomat observes much, acts little, and speaks softly. You do want to appear as part of another culture, appear as yourself rather than pretending to be French, but not knowing any of the language, any of the customs at all. So what we see here is that it's all about learning style. For example, we base a lot of our style on very human things like eating and drinking, but here we're seeing that you dine really rather than eating, and you toast rather than drinking. And this is somewhat universal across cultures. How you dine and toast varies. So he is fully capable and adamant about looking American, the America of the 1770s here, but has learned French, a good amount of French. He wasn't great at it apparently, but enough to get along to show that he is trying to be part of the culture and the style. So let's take a look at how that works. Let's look at a modern example, the 21st century, in this clip of Mitchell from Modern Family. His family's in Paris. He's separate from everyone here, and he's just going down the street. He could be in this still, you see, just like anyone else, any American going down the street. But notice how he tries to get his foot in the door, but then is largely ejected.
Bonjour. Hello.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Sorry. How did you know I speak English?
Have a nice visit.
Excusez-moi. D'où se trouve,
What are you looking for? Mona Lisa? McDonald's? Both is that way. Heads up, the portions here are normal size.
how did you know I'm American? Is my accent that bad? We're dressed the same.
There's no reason to attack me.
Now, note Mitchell here, if he had been dressed more in French, it wouldn't have really helped because he's still speaking English. In other words, a French person could single him out as American, but if he'd have learned a little more of the language, a little bit more of the style, first of all, eating and walking and eating at the same time is a very American thing, not very French, because you're not enjoying your food that way. You're trying to do two things at once. It doesn't require his next step, which you're getting a hint of on screen right now. Oops. Oh, I beg your pardon.
Excusez-moi.
Both is that way. Heads up, the portions here are normal size.
how did you know I'm American? Is my accent that bad? We're dressed the same.
There's no reason to attack me.
Bonjour. 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 Uh-huh.
Oh. Pardon.
Ah.
Bonjour.
Oh.
Une table pour un, monsieur? Très bien. Vous me suivez?
Ah. Ah. Non.
Êtes-vous prêt à commander, monsieur?
Ah. Ah. Oh.
C'est un choix très judicieux.
Ah.
Merci.
It was easy to fit in. All I had to do was look good and have a lot of attitude. Paris was just like one big gay bar.
Et voilà. Votre pigeon, monsieur.
Pigeon.
Notre spécialité. Bon appétit.
Ah. No, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not French. And I'm not eating that. Okay. This scarf is driving me crazy. Excusez-moi.
Cheeseburgers that way.
Cool, thanks, man.
So we see he tried it. He tried to dress the part and he looked good that way, but it literally got him in the door, but not much further. He can't really order. He orders something he doesn't want. He doesn't want to be dressed that way. So if we look at this, Mitchell has no connection to culture in two ways. First of all, he looks American and he knows no French language or culture. He has no integrity as a French cultural person. As we can see here, that is just the same as somebody who's at home in America, and there's people in Paris, they're separate. That's the non-traveler. It's something we see on TV, we might read about, and it ends there. The next step, though, is Mitchell has some connection because he decides to look French in that middle section there. But he still doesn't really know anything about the customs, the culture, the language, so he's kicked out. Now, they didn't really kick him out, but the pigeon more or less pushed him out the door. And this, you might say, is the equivalent of a silent John Adams. John Adams was fine dressed as French nobility, but as soon as he said anything, he didn't know any French at all. Later in this, you see the king addresses him and he doesn't know a word of French. Whereas Ben Franklin, they call him Dr. Franklin, knows enough French to get by. It wasn't very fluent, but enough for him to be drawn in and then to have conversations. This is also a tourist walking down the street who blends in, which has its own benefits. I can say I've done it. I've passed for 12, 15 different nationalities simply because of something I learned before I lived abroad, and which was in Belgium and in France and in the UK. And that is to wear the shoes of the locals and to walk the way they do. Even if there's a fire in France, people don't walk fast. And Americans are always spotted that way. So you leave a little extra room in your suitcase and you buy the things. It's always a nice souvenir because you actually used it, is to dress and act the way they do. Now, here it is. This is Mitchell. He's not very happy doing this. It'll get him down the street. He won't stand out. But that is as far as it goes. Now, the next step, of course, he has no connection. And we're right back to the first one here where he's more or less ejected. He says he doesn't speak French. It didn't really do him any good. He stands out because he seems to be a little bit, you might say, as an imposter. So he isn't French. So how is he an imposter? Well, let's take a look. This has been written about quite a lot through history. Polonius in Shakespeare's Hamlet more or less says clothes make the man. That's appearance. That's what Mitchell tried. Polonius suggests to his son Laertes that he dress richly and properly in France to get respect and character. He will, only as he's walking down the street. If that's your goal, to get from point A to B, you're fine. But then it assumes that people are what they wear without ignoring the elements of integrity, which are the true behavior, the honesty, the morality, the various words that are used, but basically being involved with the culture. So as we can see, the problem is that appearance is not the same as integrity. There's a sort of hypocrisy, as Shakespeare notes, that there's a value of show over substance, which will be found out. Down the street, it will not. But the second you need something, the second you purchase something, you need directions, it will. So if Mitchell had instead done the reverse, instead of looking French but not knowing culture, he's fine to look American in his appearance, but to know a little bit of French language and culture, to have that sort of integrity. And if he had, he would have stood out as he is here as an American, but would be able to enjoy his friends or colleagues or partners for a meal. So there are universal elements there of dining and toasting with others, but in their style. Now here he only eats bon appetit. He doesn't know a lot, but that's an ideal traveler, to be like Ben Franklin, to get in the door. Franklin was spotted a mile away as an American, and he loved it. But he could talk to people. He was admired. They even put his picture on fine china, if you can believe that. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens when you encounter a foreign culture. There's this unknown world and a fear of all elements. I love this clip. You may have seen this. This is from Indiana Jones, of this sort of nebulously, can't tell which quite Asian country it is, can't quite tell when it is. It's the 40s. But I want you to notice, this is what Americans think who don't want to travel to a far off locale.
Excuse me, sir. Do you have anything simple, like soup?
What exactly was it they say was stolen?
A sacred rock.
You see, Captain? A rock.
I don't think he's laughing about that. But this is sort of some people's aversion of what it must be to go somewhere else. It's just all around scary. Now, of course, it's skipping the part that people do sit together at a table, they have a meal together, and so it is based in nutrition, but that all the other elements are too foreign to deal with. Okay, now the other problem is, what about the known world? There's this fear of the slightest infraction of etiquette. Now, there's distinctions of manners and etiquette. Manners, good, we just say good manners, to be considerate of other people, to be empathetic and that sort of thing. Etiquette is very specific to a culture, even as we see here, which goes on which side of the plate. Forks on the left, 4 letters, fork, so left, spoon, or knife, 5 letters, right. Actually, it doesn't quite work. Knives, yeah, something. So the shorter word is on the left, like left, and the longer word is on the right. But this is the part that starts to bother people. I want you to notice William Hanson, this British etiquette expert, shows how to eat a banana in the very proper British way.
Here's how to eat a banana formally. First, you'll need very sharp fruit cutlery like this. Cut each end off and place in the discard section at the top of the plate. Cut along the skin from left to right. Then just cut and eat one bite-sized chunk at a time.
Now, even fans of Mr. Hanson find this would may go a step too far, because we would think anywhere a banana is a hand food. And the problem is, ordinarily, if it's that proper, you would not be served unpeeled fruit. It would already be peeled for you. It's called a fruit salad or something like that. This is what makes people afraid to go. It's not like this scary sort of pan-Asian fear. It is about something close to our own culture, but I'm afraid to go because there's an easy infraction of etiquette here. Okay, so let's add a little bit of this. If anybody saw the series Everybody Loves Raymond, it ran 11 seasons. There was a 2-parter called Italy. Marie saves up money, sends the family. They're from Long Island, and this is Ray Barone, played by Ray Romano, and his mother Marie, and they're in this small town outside of Rome. Now, Ray has been just miserable in all senses. He's terrible to everyone else. He has a cold. He's not enjoying it. He feels like he's wasting his vacation days. But they're strolling, and something happens when Ray gets to the flower stand. I want you to notice that Marie doesn't notice, but Ray does.
Oh, please. What are you stopping for?
Nothing, no, I just never seen them like this before. Huh? Pretty. You see the way they wrap them? You look at these?
I've seen flowers. My point is, I can't talk to him. Oh, there's a butcher shop. I got to run in there, see, and get some meat for the barbecue later. You want to come in with me?
No, go ahead.
All right, I'll be right back, and don't forget what we were talking about.
Okay.
So he notices flowers first, and he's going to notice 2 more things about daily life.
Oh, prendi la palla. Oh, mi passi la palla?
Hey, guys.
Non con le mani.
He tells him not to use his hands.
Foot's okay.
Non sai giocare.
Oh, what, I'm in it? Yeah, there you go.
Che imbranato.
You wanna play a little game, huh?
Che imbranato.
Yeah, I'll pass it. There you go. You guys are good at this, right? I don't
Non
play
sai
that.
giocare.
Yeah.
Grazie, arrivederci. Ciao.
Okay.
Ciao.
Hey.
So he's had
Oh, yeah.
2 experiences. He's about to have a third. It's right beside him.
Pizza.
Yes, pizza.
Okay, give me one. Can I get one? Yeah. Thank you. Wow.
It's okay?
Yeah, yeah. I had a cold, but it's gone now. This is awesome. Awesome, awesome. You know, awesome. Magnifico.
Ah, grazie.
Prego. Oh, this is like the best pizza I ever had, man.
You like more?
Hell yes, I want more. You made this?
I make, yes.
So you're like a genius then.
Oh, all done. I've got some chops for later. But you're having pizza
Yeah,
now?
uh-huh.
Well, will you be able to eat your lunch?
Yeah, sure. You want a bite?
No.
Good.
Come on.
All right.
Come on. Let's go up this way. I forgot what I was saying.
So he's already slowed down.
Anyone but me.
Oh, yes,
He's
right.
starting to
Because
enjoy
I mean, nobody values
small treats
communicating
themselves.
anymore. To me, that's the most important thing. Don't you agree with me?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Oh,
He's in good spirits. So this is part of it too. You notice he's definitely dressed American. You can always tell, of course, eating and walking again, shorts, socks, shoes, that sort of thing. Can tell. But he's doing things at street level, and this sort of shows us that if you allow yourself, you have a day before you really need to meet, walk around the streets and see how things are done. If the things you've read about, you watch videos on them, you can give it a try. Now, sometimes the two kind of merge. I mean, he is familiar with pizza. He's Italian, he's from New York, but still the best pizza he'd ever had, a different kind of pizza. But sometimes things we take, what can be more quintessentially American that's not from another culture is the hamburger. But here's what happens when you've got to watch those fine levels of meaning without having to slice a banana and how to eat a hamburger in France.
When the French eat with the American.
Wow, this looks great.
What are you doing?
Eating my burger?
Not with your hands. We're in France. You're embarrassing me.
How else am I supposed to eat it?
You cut it with a fork and knife.
Fine.
Not like that. Don't switch your fork to the right hand.
Oh my god, you French people have so many rules for eating.
The French are very sophisticated. We take dining very seriously.
Can I get the check, please?
Bruh. So not only are you not supposed to pick it up, I mean, it's the ultimate panned food, at least for Americans, but this sort of British style of not switching knife and fork, right? The things that are very close to what we do can be the hardest sometimes, especially if you're hungry. Now, this would have been easier for her. It's not a very formal sort of dining style here. It is more eating than dining, probably. But had she had a little snack beforehand, that might have helped. Because when you're with people to socialize, you're not there to eat, you're there to dine, you're not there to drink, you're there to toast. Okay, so let's dig in a little bit. One more thing I want to show you, a very brief clip. One of the problems is that we tend to get very defensive. It's a tribal nature of our species to feel like same is good and other is different. Sometimes we play it the other way. We go, well, they do it better. They do it better. Where I'm from is bad and what they do is better, rather than seeing them as equivalent, just different. And in fact, in the diagram here, you see there's an overlap in being human. Now, here's a very brief clip. Rick Steves goes to Norway for Christmas, and he talks about their use of candles and Christmas lights. But in very brief form, he sort of seems to disparage the American way of using lights versus the Norwegian way.
Taking their cue from Santa Lucia, Norwegians, cozy in their homes, brighten their long, dark winters with lots of candles. White lights, you'll never see a colored one, and lots of greenery.
So you can see there, in short form, it does seem like he's criticizing the American use of colored candles. Now, a lot of situations I've seen all white candles, and it goes over time too. There were periods where everybody was supposed to have white lights. Then they go color. And then, of course, with movement and more LEDs, it changes. But this is a problem, even with a seasoned traveler like Rick Steves, to see this superiority of the other culture. And that's not what you're doing. You just want to see that it's different, not better. And that's how you travel well. That's how you travel light. Okay, so today we're going to be taking a look at India and Thailand with some fun facts and then our 4 rhyming elements. Before you meet with your partners in somewhat formal setting, is how do you greet? Then once you've done the greeting, you meet, and then dine, and then some refining elements. And then we'll just take a brief look at our 2 spotlight sister cities here. Feel free, by the way, along to add something in the chat. We'll have a question and answer at the end if you like as well. Okay. So let's take a look at India. Now, covering this is a bit tough. It is, of course, now the world's most populous country. 2 or 3 years ago, it bypassed China as the most populated. So let's take a look at some fun facts. First of all, zero was invented in India. And of course, we would not have modern computing, at least pre-quantum computing. We wouldn't have it without ones and zeros, essentially, ons and offs. It really changed the world of mathematics. Also, we can see here in the Sundarbans, it's the world's largest mangrove forest. It's a World Heritage Site. It's a rich ecosystem, and it's particularly known for the Royal Bengal tiger. So the tiger here inhabits these mangrove areas. And also, as India grows, it's also very young. More than half the population, so we're talking about something like over 700 million people are under the age of 25. That really makes a difference in terms of culture, the technology, and the politics. Okay, so let's take a look at a few things. First of all, before you go into the room, the first thing you're doing at home or in the hallway outside, if you need to adjust yourself, or in the bathroom, is your attire. Now, we'll see for many of our countries that the standard is still a sort of semi-formal attire, like a dark suit, and for men, for women, a pantsuit, or blouse and skirt combos. Sometimes it can vary according to the region. The North tends to be more formal. It's also cooler. Cooler usually means you got more of a chance to wear something woolen. It might be cooler in the warmer in the summer. The South less formal, maybe more linen. I want you to notice the example here. This is something to watch the trend worldwide. What is the international business look? It may be more like this young man and young woman here, that there is a nice crisp shirt, open collared, as it is with on the man and the woman, and a nice jacket. I would say one thing that may change is more of a switch to nice colorful silk pocket squares. They could be other fabrics too, but often silk. That takes place of the tie. It's already asymmetrical, and it can add just a little zip of color because he's not really wearing color so much, and neither is she. That adds a little color. But the point is that you always go slightly more formal than you expect. If you don't know if people are wearing ties, you can bring a tie and wear it. If people aren't, you can take the tie off. But if you don't have a tie, you can't put it on. Always go for the formal. It's like the old joke, if you're at a party, is it better be the only one in a tux or suit? And of course, it's the first one. Because if you're in a room full of tuxes and you're in a suit, you don't look quite right. But if you're in a tux and they're in suits, you're more formal and it looks like you have somewhere even better to be. But of course, you should check beforehand. Check with your partners, the people you're traveling with too, to see what is the standard for this. And you may need to check with your host. Okay, of course, you want to be on time. Being late is disrespectful. If you're in a big city, a crowded city, and frankly, that applies to Austin as well, like a lot of places, account for extra time. Now, you want to be early anywhere because it gives you a chance to just gather yourself beforehand. Even if you're a half hour early, you can always check your phone, put your phone away, walk around and see what the environment's like. You might even have a quick chat with a receptionist if it's in that sort of place. Also remember that somewhere that you might be that's hot, just as in Austin, if you're there early, it gives you a chance to cool off. And remember, we don't usually know the difference between heat sweat and flop sweat. If you're running up the stairs and it makes you sweaty, it does a reverse thing. It's a sort of a Gestalt psychology, reversing backgrounds and foregrounds. The fact that you're sweating will make you nervous. And because you're nervous, you'll sweat a little bit. But the point is to eliminate that is to have a chance to cool off the best you can. In case you're getting there late, you'll get on time. And if not, you have a chance to cool down and be cool as a cucumber when you walk in the room and look like you know what you're doing. Okay, so of course, greetings, and shake hands. It's very international. This has become international. There was some thought of during the pandemic that because we weren't touching and we kept distance, that we would go with a little bit of a bow and clasp hands. That really did not come, and also people were doing it in online meetings. I don't think that really came to very much the international today, but so there's still the international handshake. One thing that used to be a cultural thing in the US that no longer is, but is in India, is that women, if you're shaking hands with a woman, she's expected to extend her hand first so that it doesn't seem aggressive that your hand is out if you're a man. Again, you follow people's leads. Watch what the person in front of you does. If there's a delay, there's real no benefit to being first. Being second or fourth or seventh is fine. You can watch what other people do and follow suit. Okay, of course, internationally, if you ask someone about what is an Indian greeting, they will say namaste. This has come through quite a bit of self-help culture, especially yoga in the US and in the West. Now, namaste is used in religious settings and in other places that we're addressing a relative, an elder, a guest, a stranger. And it looks more like this. Use your head, there's a smile, there is eye contact. But it is not in a formal business setting. But if other people are doing it, it means you can do it too, and you just follow suit. Okay, so let's look at some quick do's and don'ts because of all the scenarios. The problem is people learn the namaste thing and they go to India. There's stories of Americans and they greet everybody with namaste. And it's a little bit out of place. It would be the equivalent in the US if you learn in the South to give somebody a brief hug, of trying to hug everyone. And the problem is just because a little is good does not mean a lot is better.
Of all the greetings that exists around the world, there is one like no other. The Indian Namaste. A form of greeting which accepts the other being as greater than oneself. So what exactly is the Indian Namaste? A classic Namaste is executed when you fold your hands, palms pressed together, fingers touching and pointed upwards, and with your torso slightly bent while saying Namaste to the person you wish to greet. Now, what is the meaning of Namaste?
The first thing you have to keep in mind is that Namaste is not the Indian equivalent of saying hello.
Hinduism believes that God resides in everyone, and Namaste is a way of respecting the other person's inner soul. The gesture literally means I am bowing down to the divine in you.
Namaste is the union of spirits who respect each other's existence.
When do the native Indians practice Namaste? It's practiced when you meet an elderly person as a sign of respect. It's used while you're seeking blessing from a teacher or a mentor. It's also used when you are genuinely thankful to someone.
So even there, that's not a greeting, that's a thank you.
In Indian schools, it's a common sight to find students greeting their teachers with a namaste. Over the years, namaste has evolved to become part of certain colloquial forms of communication. For example, a student saying namaste combined with a smile and a U-shaped body curve may indicate that he wants the teacher to go easy on him while evaluating his answer sheets. If he fails the exam, a namaste on the floor at the same teacher's feet may be used to convince the teacher to save him from the wrath of his mother. In certain parts of India, namaste with a clap sound means you have had enough with the other person.
So which are the situations a foreigner can make use of namaste while in India?
When you meet an elderly person, you can always greet them with a namaste. Also, if there's a person who's like a teacher to you, you can greet them or say goodbye to them with a namaste. And any person who goes out of his way to help you with a favor, go ahead and give him the best one you got. Also remember, it's not necessary to say namaste each time you fold your hands, since it's already understood. So the next time you're in India, don't go around bombarding random people with namastes.
Namaste.
Use it wisely.
Please.
So now you might think, well, why aren't we dealing more with language? But the thing is, with even Google Translate, with an interpreter by your side, etc. There are a lot of things you can do with language. That has its own path. You should learn, of course, some basics, obviously. Please, thank you, etc. Just remember to get the foot in the door. That's it. You're not trying to establish yourself as a native speaker. Again, Ben Franklin did not speak French very fluently, but enough to get along, and they could add his English in there with it, and everyone got along really well. He got his points across. He had conversations. But nonverbals, like we just saw with Namaste, are very sensitive because you got to make sure it's just in the right environment. For example, we just saw the handshake, by the way. This varies in cultures, some firm, some light, some longer, some shorter. And these things may be hard to remember, but again, you can watch someone. The general rule of thumb is a medium firmness. So it's not aggressive and it's not too passive, but at the same time, not too long. And they may withdraw their hand first, and then you don't have to worry, right? You're just trying to find a way to navigate, because we haven't even gotten to meetings yet. This is greeting. You want to make sure you get off on the right foot. And it seems natural and not overdone. I've hosted people from let's see, from Finland, Austria, Hungary, etc. And it is fun when the first thing they say is howdy with a very strong accent. It's charming, but if they start saying howdy to everyone, you go, don't do that. You can just say hi. And that's the equivalent here with namaste, right? Just because a little works doesn't mean a lot is better. Okay, so you greet the most senior person first. We've seen this a lot in our workshops here. You might use sir, madam, doctor, or use G at the end for formal titles to give it a little bit more of a formal twist. Wait to be invited to use first names. So that's G is kind of a softener. It makes it a little bit less of a direct answer, like to an elder or relative. For adults, you might say mummy, G, etc. The same for aunt and uncle. It's kind of like san on the end of a name in Japanese. A softener simply means that you're not being too direct. There's some equivalents in English that are older that are sometimes used, like when you end every sentence with a woman that's maybe older than you that you don't know and you say ma'am. It does soften it a little bit. It doesn't add meaning, but it adds a little bit less of an aggressive push. Okay. Again, greet most senior person first. And you can give small gifts, but you open them out of sight. That's a big one, by the way, because in the US, we considered it insulting. They didn't like it enough to open it and declare your love for it, even if you don't love it. You know, this is great. It's what I've always wanted. Hey, this is really nice. This really represents where you're from. So you have to be careful about things like that and really know. Again, if there's multiple gifts, just watch what other people do. But if you're first there, note that you open out of sight so it doesn't embarrass the gift giver in case it's something that you don't particularly enjoy. Okay. Again, punctuality, business cards, the language, etc. So again, we cover this in each of our sessions. Business cards are still used worldwide. There are QR codes, etc. But we found, give an example, during the pandemic, a lot of restaurants just had QR codes on their menus for some reason, and you're supposed to scan it, look on your phone. But people don't really like that. People like to have the physical manifestation of your presence, and that is on a very nicely done, cotton bond business card. If it has, it's got good font, good spacing, nicely lettered, has a nice logo, colored, all the better. And probably in English, again, the English is the lingua franca in India, really as it is in the US. Most Americans are not of English descent. German is the most common ancestral descent for Americans, but it's the lingua franca, so English is good. But be careful, soften again. Don't say no, say I will try. Kind of like in Japan, they say maybe, which really means no. And be careful about things we take as very universal, like yes and no. So let's talk about here the yes head shake, which we have to actually see here to see what's going on. It's called the great nod, the Indian head wobble, the bobble, etc. It's an even continuous motion. So it's sort of like the infinity symbol, like a sideways 8. It can mean agreement if it's done briefly, but it's a back and forth as a friendly knowledge of understanding, not unlike the way Americans just lightly nod. If you nod hard, it means, okay, got it, move on. But a nice nod means I'm listening, please continue. And this is the equivalent, but the head is used simply differently. You might want to practice that one before you head off. Okay, a few things about dining. Again, the food is going to be delicious, you know that. But remember to eat before you go. Put a kind bar, a protein bar, or a little bit of trail mix in your messenger bag or your purse. And remember, you do not want to walk into a room hungry because your monkey brain, your brainstem is going to take over. You've heard of hangry, but also we might say hurry hunger too, where you're not really interested in getting to know your host or the other guest, etc. Make sure you eat a little something before you go so you can have a leisurely dinner. I'm not aware of any culture we're covering where eating faster is taken as a compliment, because it just means you're eating to fulfill a biological need. So always come a little late. This is the same in America. For dinners at 7, you do not show up. If it's a dinner party, you don't come too late. If it's a party, you definitely don't come early. If it's a dinner party, 20, 30 minutes. A party itself, an hour. You never want to be the first one there or the last one to leave. You kind of want to slip in and out, just like Benjamin Franklin. Okay, you wait for your host to serve you. And use your hands a certain way, as you can see here. Make sure if you take from a communal dish that spoon, etc., just like here, is used for that and not for your personal use, right? That's sanitary and it's polite. Okay, there's also the entertainment style. This is used in nice Indian restaurants in the US too, with the lazy Susan in the middle. You allow the oldest or the senior person to start first. And to make sure you wash your hands before the meal. I think about that because I do that minimally with some hand sanitizer, and I'm always surprised that other people don't. I think this has become standard for everyone since the pandemic, but it's certainly appropriate here in India. It may be outside, etc. You may go to a restaurant, but that's the host's job to figure that out. Okay. Now, if you have dietary restrictions like you're gluten-free or no alcohol or vegetarian, etc., you can make requests, but you give a reason. We would say that's invasive for us. We just say, you might say, I don't eat meat. But you're fine to say, thank you for inviting me. I am vegetarian, because the host doesn't want to be embarrassed by serving the wrong thing. That's very embarrassing. I can tell you that I don't eat barbecue, but I have been to barbecue places with people like Black's Barbecue, and I get sides. I'm there to socialize, and that's just fine. If I'm hungry, I can eat before or after. You might want to bring your own water bottle. You can buy it in a stall nearby, and you want to keep your distance, arm's length, or about 2 feet, and avoid touching others. Here we see some glasses and bottles touching, but the people are not touching. Okay, so just some basic etiquette sort of aspects. Don't share utensils, eat with your right hand. The left is considered unclean. Again, wash your hands. Nearby people want to know that you've washed your hands. Use roti to scoop up food. Don't point, ask for whatever you would like passed or served. And don't ever offer food from your own personal food, right? It's just from the larger serving dish. Okay, so one of the last things we're finding is a constantly changing thing, just like attire, is what is the role of women in business in India? India is still a very male-dominated society, so it's harder for women to work with business. But in South and Central India, where it's a higher tech, it's a more modern sort of sense, a more westernized or internationalized sense, women have gained more acceptance. Use your position and title. This is not unlike the US 20, 30 years ago. a woman says she is Dr. Smith, and somebody calls her Miss Smith or Ms. Smith, like, excuse me, but it is Dr. Smith. Be aware some women may not be included in some conversations, and but it is okay to invite an Indian man to a business lunch and pay. Again, you're usually on the safe side of things and the more comfortable if you do lunch and not dinner. Lunch has bookends. When it begins and ends, it's the middle of the day, everyone else is out for lunch. Frankly, you want to save a little money, lunch is usually less expensive. It is dining, but not in the sense of an evening meal at dinner where it can go long and we don't know where people are going after that, and it can have implications as a date. So a business lunch is just right. Okay. Let's take a look at Pune, our sister city. It's called the Oxford of the East because of all the educational institutions. It's a major IT and automotive hub, and it has a rich cultural heritage. It's eco-conscious and bike-friendly, which I really love. I love the livable city myself. You can see there's green space, water, modern buildings, and that sort of thing. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the ashes of there are some ashes of Gandhi here even. It's such an historic and important city. Okay, let's move, if you will, to our second country, which is Thailand. First of all, Thailand is called the land of smiles because there's a lot of value placed on friendliness, harmony, and maintaining face. As we can see here, by the way, Thailand differs from nearly every other Asian country in that it's not had any colonization from the West. Of course, India with the British, Goa with the Portuguese in India and other places. But Thailand was never colonized, so it has a more distinct culture than its neighbors. They use a Buddhist luna-solar calendar, which combines lunar and solar cycles. They also have 12 months, but they're 29 to 30 days. Actually, one of the pictures here seems to have 31. But that means that they only have 354 days a year, which means the years go by faster, which means it is currently the year 2568. Another is, maybe people have heard this, you see listed here is the full name, 167 letters for Bangkok, and we can hear someone pronounce that for us.
Okay, now tell everyone what Bangkok's full name is in Thai. Sure. กรุงเทพมหานครอมรรัตนโกสินทร์มหินทรายุทธยามหาดิลกภพนพรัตน์ราชธานีบุรีรัมย์อุดมราชนิเวศมหาสถานอมรพิมานอวตารสถิตสกัทัตยะวิษณุกำประสิทธิ์ Your turn.
So there you go, the abbreviated form. Okay, so let's talk about, we're going to look at a particular custom called Y, the handshake or Y. You might, here's what happens when you AI generated image. It would appear the fellow on the right has three hands because it's pretty funny because he is trying to shake hands and do a Y, the hands together as like in a bow. At the same time. This is going to be tough because it's not one or the other. What you do is wait for what the other person does. If they extend their hand, then you can put your hand out and shake hands. Again, follow the lead of not only of the people in front of you, like in a receiving line, a group of people, just don't be first, but even the person in front of you, it's okay for your Thai host to initiate. Be light and brief. We tend to squeeze at saying, I'm powerful. We call it, what do we call a limp fish if it's too light, but you can also feel the grip of your partner. You can watch other people. Just be observant. These are little things, right? This is not an etiquette test. It's just making sure that that's not a bump in the road. Think about it. When you take a flight, you may fly 7 miles up in the air for hundreds of miles and you paid a low price. People brought you food and drink. Well, what do people talk about? They talk about turbulence. So if you don't get the grip right, if you do the Y instead of the handshake or vice versa, this is the turbulence. It's the thing we remember. It's the red circled word on an English paper that's misspelled. We didn't notice the good because of the few off things. But if we can get those mostly right, we're in the room and we can have our conversation. You want to smile friendly. And again, some may offer a Y and a handshake simultaneously or sequentially. So you just have to watch what is offered. So the Y, it is a traditional Thai greeting. It's a sign of respect, especially for authority. It's more common than handshakes. It involves pressing the palms together at the chest and bowing slightly. So we can just take a little look here of, who you do this with. It's with elders or superiors. Because you're a Westerner, you'll probably be offered a handshake, but it's nice to know that there are options here. So you're not surprised. And by the way, that you don't switch into namaste, because then it's showing that you've got the wrong country. It sort of reminds me of I took the black cab tour of Belfast, the divided city. And the driver was talking about, the unionist, royalist and all that. And he mentioned something about how it appears to Yankees. And I'm like, well, see, you're doing the very same thing, because to call a Southerner a Yankee is not a friendly thing to do, because they call all Americans Yankees. So you don't want to confuse it with something. You don't want to get it wrong. So let's take a look at how it proceeds. There's different levels. Of course, the deeper the bow, the more formal it is, according to who you're doing this with. So let's just take a quick look at these.
In Thailand, you see many people do this. And it makes you wonder, what is it? Well, it is Thai greeting, or we call Y. In fact, it has 3 levels. Let me show you how to do it real quick. And here's the quick guide. The level 1, when you meet friend or similar age, you put your hand together like this as the chest level, and then make sure that your finger touch your chins and your nose like this, and bow a little bit. Level 2 is for someone older than you, like your senior, boss, teacher. Your finger have to be between your eyebrows. And level 3 reserved for monks or the member of royal families. This is the highest level. Bow all the way. Remember, Y is a respectful gesture to connect people. So don't worry if you do right or wrong, because Thais appreciate the way you're trying to make respect anyway.
So there you go. Now, one problem with erring on the side of formality is because it may be in one direction. If someone is more senior than you, you're not senior to them. You may be unsure. But remember, if you're all in doubt, watch what people do in front of you. If for some reason you're first and you think the person may be your senior, then go for the more formal. It's like being very formal when someone says, "How do you do, sir?" And you're like, "Oh, just call me," right? You can err on the side of formality, but you never want to err on the side of informality, because it's simply showing respect, and that is what gets you in the door and keeps you there. Okay, so again, attire, this looks very similar to the international style we've seen for other countries, including India, a darker, so it's a very neutral suit. I'm not sure I really agree with some of what I found here. Generally, an entirely black suit is uncommon unless you are a mortician. Usually it's something a bit off, like charcoal or dark gray. A strong black would really be more for formal wear, like a tux, not the semi-formal business attire. As you see, long sleeve collared shirts and a tie. You might take the tie off in hot weather, unbutton your jacket. You can watch what other people do. If you have the tie, you can take it off. But if you don't have it, you can't put it on. So go ahead and wear that. And in fact, it looks like I am adopting your style. You took your tie off, I will as well. The same for women, skirt or pantsuits, conservative colors, knee length or longer dresses, and no sleeveless tops unless you have a shawl or a jacket. Okay. Kun is followed by first names, and this is a form kind of like we saw with G, just a polite way. Maybe the closest thing we have is when someone calls, if your name is Kevin and they call you Mr. Kevin. It's not quite your last name, and it's not just your first name alone. We don't really entirely have the equivalents. For students, for example, it goes the other way. If you see a student in a casual setting and they would call you just by your last name without a title, I'd be called Clark. And that's a way of saying, I'm respecting that I don't call you by your first name alone, but that I'm not using a title because we're not in a classroom. Of course, don't use nicknames or informal names unless you're invited. Aim for the formal. Okay. Business cards again, nice cotton bond. There are places now Printing is so good that, of course, online, et cetera, there's always sales that you can get stuff. And here you see it's in Thai and in English. Make sure translations are correct if that's necessary. Just because they're a printer doesn't mean that they're sure of the language. Make sure it's correct. Have someone verify it before it's printed, and you make a lot of copies of it, or your company does. But this is greatly appreciated because then you have it in hand. Put it in a non-bendable place. This is generally true after you examine it, because if you bend the card, it's like saying you're bending the person. Again, a suggestion: get a small metal card carrying case. Carry two, one for your cards and one for the ones you receive. You don't have to worry about it. Oh, unless you have a jacket pocket, it's probably fine. But make sure to look at it so it's not just sort of tossing it. If somebody hands something to you and you just toss it, it means I don't have any respect for what you are promoting. So make sure to have a good look at it. It's also saying I'm remembering your name and who you are. Plus, you'll know what their position is. Here we see marketing manager. You'll know at what level of person you're dealing with. Of course, you can use double-sided with Thai on one side and English on the other. It shows you're mobile, portable. You're probably going to get cards made for multiple places. The English will be the same on all of them, probably. And the other language will be on the other side. Don't mix those up. If you just went to India, do not give them a card, if it's for some reason not in English, that's in Hindi or something. Don't do that. Of course, show the Thai side face up if your counterpart is Thai. That's showing respect. When you say something, sawadika, to introduce yourself, say hello. Even if you don't quite get the pronunciation right or all the words, it's showing the effort, not the polish, the effort. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about gifts. Small token gestures, sweets, trinkets, souvenirs from home are good. This is always nice. Here's some items that happen to be from Austin, not just the US or Texas. But you always want to look up stuff that's very particular to the culture. This varies a lot. If you've been to our workshops, you know this. Make sure to look this up, because some colors that are appropriate here or in another country are very much inappropriate in other countries. So be very careful. Often they represent bad luck or even death. So be very careful. Also, again, you open the gift in presence. Here, you open the gift in presence of the giver. That's the opposite of what we saw in India. So make sure to look that up, be sure, because maybe you're offered something and no one else is, or not at the same time, and you're not sure what to do with it, and that can be uncomfortable. By the way, this comes up. If you have a group of Thai people in Austin, well, you want to make people feel at home, but it's assumed as soon as you get off the plane that you're following American customs. So it works great here because we open gifts in the presence of people too. In fact, we expect if you go to a shower, baby shower, bridal shower, if you go to a birthday party, it would be very odd not to open the gifts in front of everyone. Of course, wedding gifts not, because of the nature of the ceremony. Okay, you want to be on time for all meetings. Begin with informal small talk. Personal questions may be asked, not to be invasive, but to figure out your status, which is also on your business card. Meals are usually shared, what we call family style. They use Western utensils, by the way. You may be thinking in some ways that, say, chopsticks are pan-Asian, but not in Thailand. So that's saying I'm confusing you with another country. By the way, we already have that problem because of the sounds of the names of countries. I went to Thailand in March, and somebody said, "Oh, you're going to Thailand?" I'm like, "No, Taiwan," just because of the nature, just the coincidence. This happens when I lived in Belgium. People said, "Oh, I think, isn't Belgium the capital of Brussels?" I went, "No, Brussels is the capital of Belgium." And they said, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure because I live there, yes." So again, you're not bringing your own. You don't have to worry. It's not like the way you dress. Just see what people are doing around you. You might watch too, by the way, fork used to push food into a spoon. It's the same when we see with the UK. Which hand uses what, and do you switch? People really notice. People will notice that. So watch what they do. Now, this is pretty standard in a lot of places. Leave a small amount of food on the plate. It's saying, if you clean your plate, it's saying, I'm really hungry. I ate everything I could, but I didn't get served extra. And it makes the host feel ashamed. You leave a little food to say, it was good, but I left a little to say, I'm sated, I'm full. Great. Toast with cheers. Again, that has to do with heights. Don't have your glass higher than a senior person. Of course, we're not used to that. We believe in toast, as you see in the little image there, that the glasses are always at the same level, but this is not true in Thailand. Okay, women in business, just a little bit here. We mentioned already briefly dresses and suits in subtle colors, shoes with heels, but not really high heels. Modest speech is in cooperation is valued over assertiveness. And of course, avoid heavy makeup and jewelry. All of these apply in the US as well. Well, no, maybe the middle one. Americans tend to be assertive regardless of being male or female. Okay, Chiang Mai is our sister city. It is a city in bloom. It's called the Rose of the North because of its mountain views, cool breezes, and floral charm year-round. It was the royal capital of the Lana Kingdom. They have a lantern festival there, lanterns in the sky, with floating lanterns. And just as we saw the Bengal tiger in India, in Pune, we have elephants here. Okay, let's just take a brief look here. We can move to questions and answers, if you would, as we do with each of our workshops of Gerda Hofstede and the 6 cultural dimensions. So Gerda Hofstede was an employee of IBM, which is worldwide. And he noticed, he was talking to a Dutch woman. I mean, he's Dutch, and he was talking to, I think, a British woman about how the companies work different in the different countries. In other words, the cultural underpinnings are all important. And that's what we're talking about here today. You can actually look up on the official Hofstede site. It had list all, depending on how many, 192 or 195 countries. I think South Sudan is the latest to be recognized by the UN. You can put in your country, for example, the US, and other countries, I think up to 4 or 5, and see the comparisons. They're all ranked, have a scale here out of 100. And that way you can see, again, it's not same or bad. It's not, it's just same or other. It's not better or worse. To see that the underpinnings of society long before you met with your partners has been established. Now, in this one, there's 6. We only need to look at 3 because they're the ones where there's the most variation here. As you can see in the first one, it's power distance. That's the US and the sort of teal there. This is the belief that that men and women are equal. No one person or group should have excessive power. We tend to be on first name basis. We're very casual. I would argue, of course, in our Austin workshop, we're even more casual if we're Southern and also being Texan. So we tend not to really deal with, we know who the senior partner is, perhaps. Students will call me by my title because that's part of classroom etiquette. But otherwise, we tend to see everyone as equal. That's a low power distance. Now you notice we move up. Thailand is in between, and India even further up with high power distance. That certain groups, such as the royal family or ruling political party, have more power than the average citizen. Of course, in India, this plays out with the caste system, technically illegal, but still in play. So this explains a lot about why customs emerge in a country. If you understand simply the way you bow or who you shake hands with first or who you offer a gift to first, about seniority, you simply look at these cultural dimensional charts. A second area is individualism, and that is versus collectivism. This is where people are expected to take care of themselves. The US usually ranks pretty high on this, one of the highest in the world. I think at the moment, oddly enough, Belgium is even higher. But we believe in personal initiative. But you'll notice it's typical in Asian countries, including India and Thailand, that I didn't put the word there, collectivism, people emphasize interdependence, loyalty, and cooperation. So the needs of the group outweigh the needs of the individual, the needs of the family, the tribe, the city, the cult, whatever the grouping of people is, outweighs your needs as an individual. Finally, we have indulgence. Indulgent cultures believe that it's good to be free, follow your impulses, friends are important, life makes sense. To Americans, this is one of the strangest things because we go, how could it be otherwise? But as you can see here, though we rank high, successively further down with Thailand in the middle and India at the bottom here of the three, restrained cultures believe that life is hard and duty, not freedom, is the normal state of being. That is a hard mindset to get into as an American. But you have to realize that's how they interact. And you have to step away from saying something is better or worse, but simply that it's different. Okay, so let's revisit Ray. And here he is with his wife, Deborah, as he's finally come around to the small town Italian life outside of Rome. Being nimble, he has walked down the streets and better knows how to interact with people instead of complaining the whole time. So I want you to notice if you can do this, it leads up to the next day of having a better business protocol in your meeting.
Ciao, tutti! Ciao! Hello, everybody! Beautiful day, huh?
He never rides bikes. He rides bikes there.
Look what I have. Senora, please.
Specially wrapped flowers.
For you can have those. Here, you can have one of those. Beautiful. See how they wrap them? Mom! And it's Coletta. That's for you.
What are you doing?
Oh, you look good. Come here. I want to talk to you.
In the rest of the show, it's as if he's been visited by 3 ghosts overnight, and he's a changed person.
I know you wanted to talk to me before, and I know what you're going to say.
No, you don't.
Well, whatever you were going to say, you were right. I was wrong and you were right. And I'm not just saying that so we don't have to talk about it anymore like at home. It's just, there's something about this place. Do you get that? There's like a feeling here. I don't know how to describe it, but it's more simple. The way the whole place shuts down in the middle of the day so the people can just, enjoy the day. It's like they know how to live here. Don't you think? Don't you think it's kind of beautiful here?
Yes.
Okay, so we agreed. And the history. I was thinking, thousands of years here. We got no history at home. Everything was built last week.
Where have you been?
I had a bike ride.
No, today. I mean, this whole trip.
Okay, so what do you want me to say? Your hair does look nice, though.
So now you're being romantic.
Look, I don't know what I'm being, but we got a couple of days left. You want to enjoy it or you want to mope around?
So there we go. Now, he did do something Rick Steves did. He was saying because the U.S. is newer. Of course, this is the fallacy of tradition. It says because something is old, it must be good. That's an argumentative fallacy. It isn't. It does affect the culture, however. There are things we don't see here. He's on a road, but how long does it take to get a street fixed? I bet if he were in Germany, it would be fixed within the week. But in Italy, it might be weeks. There is downsides. He's making, I think, an unfair comparison and saying that one is better than the other. But what he has done is to understand how the life is lived there. If his partner said, let's all, we're going to ride bikes and go to the little cafe at the next town, you just do what they do. You ride bikes. If you dress casually, you dress casually. And you notice everything we've talked about here today has nothing to do with what you're going to talk about. And neither have we very much with Ben Franklin, because this is just how to sort of get in the door so that you can have that conversation. You're not worried about turbulence. You're worried about getting to your destination. Okay. So let's just say Ben Franklin was a modern citizen of the country here. He'd be over 300 years old, but here he is. So just a recap of some protocol basics. Be Ben Franklin. Be authentically yourself in your American style. Don't be fake. You can certainly buy clothes wherever you are if it feels natural. Aim for integrity over appearance to get your foot in the door. Walk around the neighborhood to observe and participate in daily interactions, maybe before the meeting. be prepared with a few basics of etiquette so that you're doing the right thing. Ben Franklin is right here in a cafe. Now, I have a friend that I visited in Taiwan, and in just a couple of days, he's heading to Europe for the first time, and I'm so excited for him. But I said, I don't want to stick my nose into your planning, but I will insist that you sit in a cafe in Paris. He's going to Amsterdam, Paris, and then going to an event in outside of London. I said, no matter how much time you have, you need 2 hours or more to spend sitting in a cafe. Most French people have small apartments. They don't have living rooms. So cafes are their living rooms. The server comes up, usually a waiter, does not give his name, serves you, takes stuff away, and you're free to sit there. You don't leave as soon as you finish your drink, for example. That's what Ben Franklin's doing here. He's dressed as an American. He's not dressed like the people around him exactly. He stands out as American, but he's following French customs. I told my friend to slow down. If you do that, he'll walk the right way too. No rushing around. Okay. View same and other as simply different, not better or worse. Dine and toast rather than eat and drink. And let others go first and follow their lead. And that's how we get to be Ben Franklin and have a wonderful life as we meet our partners. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our discussion today. But I will be very happy to hear comments or questions about our and now I'm nervous because we have a native Indian and a native Thai. And so go ahead. This is what I get for looking stuff up and watching a lot of things and reading. But Aditi, Tank, I would love to hear comments in particular, but anyone else?
I'd wait for Tank to comment first because I think this is the first training he is attending. So Tank, if you would like to offer your feedback, we'd love to hear you.
Yeah, I was trying to find a picture, and I'll upload it here in just a second. But yeah, I made a couple notes. It was really interesting. First of all, Doug, it was awesome. It's such an awesome presentation. I really enjoyed it. Learning me, I'm still learning all the culture, even being from Thailand, still learning that. But it was interesting. The slide you showed of the you said you had one hand up, and the other hand shaking the greetings, salutations.
He was trying to do Y and
the Y
handshake
right.
at the same time.
Right. Well, what was interesting is that is a proper way. And I just recently learned that, believe it or not, is that if your hand is full and you're walking into a situation like that and you only have one hand free, it's okay to use one hand to do the Y. So that was it was really cool to do that because your other hand's full, so you just use one to do that, and it shows that you made an attempt at that. So that's very acceptable.
Your hands up, just
one hand up is fine, and that serves the purpose of that. So that was something new that I had just learned recently. I absolutely love your saying about it's the effort, not the polish. And man, I tell everybody in my travels and stuff, if you can just learn just a couple of words in the native language, it goes so far when you travel and you get there that the people appreciate just the effort alone in that. And it's huge because just saying hello, and just your greetings and stuff like, man, it really opens up the door. It really, lowers everybody down to the level to where you just, almost like you've been friends for a while, right? I mean, just because you've shown that effort into that. Interesting side note. I was amused that you chose Everybody Loves Raymond, and so. And the reason for that is the creator of that is a friend of mine by the name of Phil Rosenthal.
Oh, somebody feed Phil.
Yeah, exactly. So so I'll tell you the story behind that. Yeah, behind why they were in Italy and everything is because usually when they start filming the season, it starts in August for the TV season and stuff, and then if they get picked up the next season, then they go on hiatus. And after a couple of years of filming, Phil had asked Ray, said, "Hey, what are you going to do when you're on hiatus?" He goes, "Oh, I'm going to Jersey Shores." He's like, "What?" He goes, "Why would you go to Jersey Shores? Why don't you go back to Italy where you're from and stuff and discover that?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't want to travel and pick up the food and the culture and all this other stuff, kind of just talking about it, about the challenges that he would have. So out of that, Phil took it on his mission, like, we're going to film in Italy. And so that's why they had the couple episodes that they filmed there in Italy, because he wanted to take, in real life, wanted to take Raymond back there to his heritage and do that. And when he did that, he saw the joy that came out of Raymond while they were filming that and said, man, I'm onto something here. I've got to do something about that. And that's what created Somebody Feed Phil, because he saw the joy in his friends and the travels and the culture and the food and stuff and how people would be able to get together. And so he had that and was developing that that documentary, if you will, on that. And that's how that became, was because of that. And of course, he went to several networks and pitched it, and they weren't doing it anymore. It was funny because he would go to the travel network, and the travel network told Phil, said, hey, yeah, we're no longer doing stuff about travel. We're doing adjacent travel. And he was like, what do you mean adjacent travel? Like, what does that mean? What are you talking about? Well, we're going to show how to build Airstreams. We're going to show how to, pack a suitcase, things like that. They weren't really travel, but they were adjacent. I think as well. So they turned him down. He went to the Food Network and he said, well, we're really not doing anything about food anymore. We're going to do food adjacent. He goes, same words, like, just a couple meetings apart. And so he just found that really interesting, but they end up picking up the show. And so that's where that show is based off of, is what you were just showing us. And the realities that I think is really authentic and probably made that even more authentic is because he was really there and really did experience everything they were filming of the clip that you showed. So I was really appreciative of that. And I'm gonna get a hold of Phil and let him know, hey, look, this is what I learned today in the class that I took, and let him know that you did that. So that was really that was really great. The last thing is, when you're talking about culture, I just finished reading a book by Patrick McGee. It's called Apple in China. And if you haven't had an opportunity, you should really get that, because it really talks about the culture and how, and it applies to modern, with the terrorists and stuff that are going on right now, about the culture between Cupertino and China, and how to do the production, how you're dealing with the government, how you're dealing with the etiquette, and how the Chinese culture and the U.S. culture were clashing on it. So that's a really interesting, but it's called, Apple in China by Patrick McGee. It's a really good read. But anyways, just want to tell you, I really enjoyed the class today. It was really awesome, and I'm looking forward to the next ones that are coming up. So I appreciate your time, Doc.
I appreciate that, Tank, and I welcome you to come to the others. And I'm really glad to hear about Phil Rosenthal. I would say I've watched every one of Somebody Feed Phil. Yeah. It's okay for him not to like something. Everything is great. And I'm like, and he's done 2, I think, from Austin. Of course, that's fun because you go, oh, I've never been there. It's always like that. But I'm waiting for him to go somewhere where the food is so unusual for him that he's just going to go, I'm not going to eat that.
It's pretty, I'm sure that'll probably happen at some point in time. But I'm trying to pull this up let's see if I can find it. One of my favorite quotes is that he says, I believe is, this is a quote from him, is, most people are so much better than their government. You meet sweet people everywhere, even these countries that we're supposed to hate. It's not the people, it's who's in charge, and they're the ones who are in the news. So we make these crazy generalizations about the people. It's never the people, it's the jerks. And Phil said that, and it just always resonated with me, that the people are so much better than the government, that that they're, and it happens all over the world. So anyways, this kind of travel show, it didn't do the big, his travel show doesn't do the big stuff. You go, wait, there's this monument right there. I'm like, well, that's the point. It is travel. He's only doing the food there. In fact, the scene where Ray's kicking the soccer ball with the kids. I mean, actually, that happened to me. If you go to the most touristed thing in Paris, I was there one evening and saw that it was lit up, saw the Eiffel Towers, fine. A block away is the Champ de Mars, the Martian fields, I guess, the fields of Mars. And there's a boys' school there, and in the little green quad that is, circumscribed by the street, they were kicking around a soccer ball. And I started walking that way to see what was there, and they asked if I wanted to play. So I think I kicked it a couple of times. I don't know how to play soccer,
But you know, that's my, I don't know if I should use that word. That was my souvenir because I was literally maybe 200 feet from the Eiffel Tower and no tourists were going off. And they, you know, they call that the, is it like the 3-block or half-mile rule? If you go anywhere famous and do a side street, you get a different experience. So I was in Piccadilly Circus in London, was tired of all those TGIFs there. It's just buried stuff and it was loud. So I go down a side street and there's a deli, no one's there, and I order a sandwich. And I'm starting to reach for it. He goes, not yet. I'm like, okay. But he wanted to cut it in half and put garnish around it because he was proud of his work.
Yeah.
And that's what I remember. And that's somebody who said there was an American in here. And I say there was this British guy, you know, there were these French kids playing soccer. And that is that daily event. By the way, in Rick Steve shows, I think in some side ones he does in Art Europe, he goes to, I believe, Iran. And the people said what you just said that Phil said. We know our countries have problems, but I like Americans. They didn't say they liked America, they like Americans.
Right.
And Rick Steves is, you know, real careful when he travels, but he got along. And I was even a little nervous because he was talking to women who, you know, the separation of men and women, but they were all happy to get in selfies and, you know, and that, yeah, that's it. Because they're going to see you coming. You're dressed as an American. Ben Franklin is wearing the clothes. You're not trying to pretend not to be an American. And by the way, it can be bad that way. I had a friend, a person visiting from Budapest, and the first thing you want to do is go to Shepler's and buy a cowboy hat. I'm like, oh no, okay. Because for some reason that show Dallas, you know, from like 30 years ago is big there. It's weird. They think that is Texas now, you know, or whatever was. So he gets the hat. It's fine. He goes, let's go out to dinner. And I'm like, you're not going to wear that hat because it just didn't look right. You know what I mean? It's a little bit off. I said, that's for to take back home with you, but just be Hungarian while you're here. Be excited. And at the time, Austin even had a Hungarian restaurant and we took him there.
That's great.
And so he got to know those customs. Yeah. What Ray did there, he went down a side street. There's no monuments there. That pizza place was like, what, 4 by 6 feet?
Right.
That's the food. It's not the white tablecloth restaurant.
Right.
It's the local side place where he got the best pizza of his life. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I posted that. I found those pictures and I posted up there for you in the chat.
Oh, okay.
They're in the chat. But this was a very good training as usual, Kevin. And thank you. I encourage you